Our Declaration of Independence and Constitution are being destroyed by the Democrat Party and the media. And they want to destroy what's left of it. We know this because the Democrats have announced their intentions. If the two neo-Marxist Democrats running in Georgia are elected to the Senate, it'll be 50-50. And then the neo-Marxists, they hope, purported Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, it's not there yet, but they hope she'll be the 51st vote for the Democrats. So by the slimmest of margins, they're going to destroy our judiciary. They're going to destroy separation of powers. They're going to destroy the United States Senate by packing the United States Senate. We're going to have a rogue legislature that will pass whatever it wants, anytime it wants, and fundamentally alter every aspect of this society. And then finally, they want to destroy the Electoral College so Republicans can never win, and Republican areas of this country have lost, in effect, their franchise and their representation. That's how serious this is. We're standing at the precipice and we're looking into the abyss because this is the target. This is the target. The Democrat Party never much liked the founding of this country. It never much liked the Declaration of Independence and certainly not the Constitution. Early on in our history, it sought to destroy the Constitution. That's what the Confederacy was all about. Slavery, nullification, segregation. And they carried that through well into the 1900s. And now it's the party of the neo-Marxist. They have never liked Americanism. They've never liked the founding. They've never liked the limits placed on them by the United States Constitution. If we don't win at least one seat, but both seats in the state of Georgia, which is supposed to be a Republican state, this country will be changed forever. If we don't fight on January 6th on the floor of the Senate and the House, that is the joint meeting of Congress, on these electors, we're done. And I want to explain this very, very clearly. We have Republican members of Congress who are going on CNN and MSNBC and anywhere else they could be heard saying this is an attack at the heart of democracy. Ben Sasse, Adam Kinzinger, others who should know better, Cornyn, Thune, McConnell, and there's more. And of course, the media promote them. The media say, look at this, look at this. They're trying to reverse the course of the election. They're trying to take the franchise away from the people. Let me be abundantly clear about this. I wrote a piece about this the other day. You may want to check it out. On January 6th, we learned whether our Constitution will hold and whether the Republicans care. Let me be clear. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution, and we've talked about it here before, has been intentionally violated, eviscerated, by the Democrat Party and the United States Supreme Court, which is sitting on its pens. It's sitting on its quills. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct. Listen to this language. It's black and white. The legislature may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in Congress in relevant part. So what did the Democrats do? Well, they knew in Pennsylvania the Republicans controlled the legislature. They knew in Michigan the Republicans controlled the legislature. They knew in Georgia the Republicans controlled the legislature. And they knew in Wisconsin the Republicans controlled the legislature. So what did they do after 2016? First of all, they were trying to remove a constitutionally elected president who they had spied on, who they had leaked on a phony, outrageous, fraudulent impeachment, an outrageous criminal investigation, all fabricated by the Hillary campaign and the Obama administration. And I might remind you that Joe Biden was part of that administration. And so Donald Trump, despite all his amazing achievements, every step of the way they were trying to kneecap him and destroy him with their friends in the media, the Democrats who are so-called journalists. What a joke. Now, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, I just read it to you. So what happened in Pennsylvania between 2016 and this election? The governor of the state, the secretary of state of the state, two left-wing Democrats, the majority on the Supreme Court elected 5 out of 7 Democrats. All of them conspired to change state law that was passed by the state legislature, to eliminate signatures, to eliminate signature comparisons, to eliminate deadlines on counting mail-in votes, to eliminate postal marks, to prevent Republican observers in Democrat cities, and it goes on and on and on. They destroyed the election laws in Pennsylvania to accommodate Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, particularly in the metropolitan areas. That's what happened in Pennsylvania. And I don't have to find one damn fraudulent ballot to make the point that what was done in Pennsylvania by the Biden campaign, by the DNC, by the state Democrats, and by their officials violated the federal Constitution. Period. Whether there's fraudulent votes or not, and there are, and a lot. But they violated the specific language of the federal Constitution because they had a Republican legislature and they needed to go around them. Same thing happened in the state of Wisconsin. Same thing happened in the state of Michigan. Non-legislature public officials, secretaries of state, and even worse, in Wisconsin, local officials in Milwaukee, local officials in Madison, local officials in other large Democrat states in the city, they made their own decisions. The Republican legislature had no say. In Michigan, the left-wing Democrat Secretary of State sent out 7 million mail-in ballots, unsolicited. Specifically violates state law, where you have to request these ballots. What else did they do? In some of these states, they encouraged people to violate the law, that they didn't have to have IDs and other things that were taking place. That's 4 battleground states where the electors must not be counted if we are to uphold the Constitution and the franchise of the rest of the American people in this country. Otherwise, the electoral system is utterly lawless. They just read the legislature out of the federal Constitution in that section where they're specifically mentioned. The legislature shall direct. Not the governor, not the Secretary of State, not the Attorney General, not a state court, not a federal court, no court. Now, where was the Supreme Court? You hear former federal prosecutors who don't know any of this stuff, professors, eggheads, who know none of this stuff because they don't like the Constitution. What did the Supreme Court do? Well, in the Michigan case, there was an appeal. A federal judge interfered with what was going on there. And the Supreme Court said, you know what, federal judge, you can't do that. Gorsuch wrote that the state legislatures decide, not state courts, not federal courts, not government. It says legislature shall direct. This isn't even confusing. This is black and white. Even Joe Scarborough can read it and understand it, which is a very, very low level. Okay, that's what it says. So then we come to Pennsylvania. The Republican Party of Pennsylvania brought a lawsuit and said that the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the governor, the state Secretary of State, they're all destroying this section of the Constitution and undermining the legislature. The legislature is actually objecting to this. So the Supreme Court does what? Nothing. John Roberts decides, the great Chief Justice of the United States. John Roberts says, well, that's the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Maybe they can do these things. Is that what the Constitution says? I mean, even John Roberts, Mr. Obamacare, you would think he'd be at least literate in the Constitution, or maybe even English. That would help. It doesn't matter if it's a state court or a federal court or a state official or a federal official. The state legislature, Mr. Chief Justice, decides. But he's gone Hollywood. He's gone political. He wants nothing to do with any of this. So Sam Alito, twice, orders the Secretary of State segregate those votes. That is, any of those votes that are mail-in votes, segregate those votes. So you have people going on TV saying, well, that wouldn't change the outcome of Pennsylvania. It's unconstitutional. What they did is unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court, which uses judicial review to get involved in every damn aspect of our society, every single piece of it, we're not going to get involved in this. And so what do they say? Nothing. Nothing. So they've contributed mightily to the plight that we're in today. So there's 2 bodies under the Constitution, then, who are supposed to deal with this. In the first instance, it's the state legislature. The Democrat Party systematically attacked the Constitution and our election system successfully. Attacked it. They attacked it through lobbying their Democrat officials. They attacked it through litigation and so forth. You might say, well, look at Georgia. That was a Republican Secretary of State. I don't care if he's a Republican. I don't care if he's an independent. I don't care if he's a communist or a libertarian. Doesn't matter to me. He didn't have the power to enter into a consent decree with Stacey Abrams' group and change these signature requirements, but it didn't have an effect. Of course it had an effect, but that doesn't matter. They violated the Constitution. People are violating in an unconstitutional process as a result of what these Democrats pushed, whether it's legislation, whether it's lobbying, or whether it's rhinos. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So right now the baseline is for our next election, all this lawlessness, and even though the Constitution says the legislature shall direct, the legislature now has no power because a state court will decide, or a governor will decide, or in these other states, in Wisconsin, bureaucrats were deciding. Boards of elections were deciding. They were changing the rules on the fly. Oh, COVID. Nothing to do with COVID. This was Nancy Pelosi's dream, to turn the country into California when it comes to voting. So the Democrats can't lose. So they build supermajorities. And then when they get in, what do? Do they play fair? Of course not. Remember, we can't comply with any of this unless we want to. No, we reject our founding. We reject our history. Remember the 1619 Project? Anything goes. We're progressives. We're neo-Marxists. We're statists. We're whatever they call themselves and whatever we call them. So this means nothing to them. And they've told us what they intend to do if they win these Georgia seats. So I want to talk specifically to the people of Georgia. You are our last line of defense when it comes to the United States Senate. You're it. If you have any inclination to sit at home, you better stand the hell up. We're not asking you to go to war. We're not asking you to put your lives on the line. We have brave young men and women who do that every single day. We are asking you to vote. Not just for Georgia, but for the rest of us. We're asking you to vote for the rest of us. Whether you like these Republican candidates or not, it doesn't matter. I would vote for an orange juice can over these radical left-wing kooks, particularly this guy, Raphael Warnock, who's an anti-Semite, who is a race baiter, who clearly hates this country. And the idea that he's going to serve in the United States Senate, then you have the other kook, who's basically a trust fund candidate. He's 33 years old. He's looking to run for offices. His financial activities with communist China, he will not reveal. Even one of the left-wing kook newspapers, I forget if it was the Post or the Times, said, hey, this could be an issue. Do we have to wait till after the election to find all this stuff out? And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going into Georgia and campaigning for Warnock, who's an anti-Semite, who has said outrageous things about Jews in the state of Israel. They're campaigning for them because the Democrat Party has an anti-Semitism problem. But they don't want to recognize it, and of course, the papers are going to defend them. Now, I want to talk to the Republicans, particularly in the United States Senate, but also in the House. Any Republican who doesn't stand up to this on January 6th, win, lose, or draw, it's the principle, it's the issue. The American people need to understand you're serious about defending the Constitution. You are shredding the Constitution along with all those Democrats in the Democrat Party who put the nation in this position. Do you understand me, Mitch McConnell? John Thune? John Cornyn? The Republican leadership in the Senate has been utterly pathetic. We're not taking any election from anybody. They destroyed the election laws and they're destroying the Constitution, and you have taken an oath to uphold it. You need to protect that Constitution, and you need to protect the American people. And you need to stare down the left-wing media in this country, and you need to stare down the people in that chamber who have done this to us. That's what you're required to do as far as I'm concerned. In the House, you need to not listen to people like Adam Kinzinger and others who put out YouTube videos about how righteous they are. Or Ben Sass, even worse. These people do not understand the Constitution, and they are not defending it or supporting the Constitution. Now, we have a chance in this country. It's left to Congress. Despite what the media said, on election night, their announcements didn't choose the president. Despite what the media said, when electors were chosen by the states, that doesn't choose the president. What happens in terms of choosing the president is on January 6th, when both chambers of Congress meet jointly and determine which electors to count and which ones matter. I understand it's a high hurdle. I understand that Congress has passed a statute long time ago in the 1800s where it's a big hurdle for Republicans to get over because they don't control the House. And God forbid, I hope they do control the Senate. But that doesn't mean you don't fight for the Constitution in the country and for a president of the United States who, in my view, was reelected. Otherwise, why would these Democrats do all the things that they've done? It was a strategic attack on the American people, the Constitution, and our electoral system. It's time for everybody to stand up and be heard. Up next, you see this? This is Joe Biden's plan for the future. I call it his Socialist Manifesto. And it smells awfully like Stalin's Soviet